December 20th, 1943. 13:45 hours. The southern edge of Ortona, Italy. The air is cold, sharp, and smells of wet plaster and diesel fumes. A Sherman tank from the Three Rivers Regiment grinds to a halt, its tracks chewing the rubble-strewn pavement of the Via Cavour. Crouched behind the tank's armored bulk, Private Jack Lonsdale of the Loyal Edmonton Regiment risks a glance. Ahead lies the Corso Vittorio Emanuele, the main street. It is utterly silent, deceptively clear. The narrow medieval street is flanked by tall 3- and 4-story stone houses, their windows like dark, empty sockets. For the past week, the 1st Canadian Infantry Division has fought its way across the Moro River, through a waterlogged hell of mud called the Gully, paying for every yard in blood. Now, they have reached the town they were told would be a simple advance to contact. But the men who hold Ortona are not simple conscripts. They are the 1st Fallschirmjäger Division, the Green Devils, veterans of Crete, of the Russian front, of Sicily. They are masters of defense, and their commander, General Major Richard Heydrich, has given a simple order. Ortona will be held to the last man. For 3 weeks, they have prepared. The order comes down the line. Eddies, move up. C Company, left. D Company, right. Stick with the tanks. The whistle shrieks. Lonsdale shoves his fear down, his knuckles white on the wooden stock of his Lee Enfield gnome. 4. He and his section dash from cover, boots skidding on loose stone, following their Sherman. The plan is simple. Classic military doctrine. Tanks provide covering fire. Infantry clears the buildings. The plan lasts 12 seconds. The moment the lead Sherman's hull crosses the invisible line into the Corso, the world erupts. It's not a single gun. It is a symphony of coordinated destruction. From a 3rd-story window, the unmistakable, terrifying rip of an MG-42, Hitler's buzzsaw, opens up, its 200 rounds per minute stitching a line across the pavement. The sound is so fast it's not a pop, 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 but a canvas-tearing rip. Traces, 1 in every 5 rounds, paint a solid yellow line of death. Get down. Men dive for non-existent cover. Lonsdale presses himself into a shallow doorway as bullets chip the stone inches from his head. Another MG-42 opens up from a sanger, a fortified nest built from the rubble of a demolished building. Then a third, from a parallel street, creating a perfect, interlocking field of fire. The street is a killing zone. The Germans wanted them here. The lead Sherman, gunner, shudders. A whoosh and a metallic clank, a Panzerschreck rocket, fired from a cellar window, slams into its side armor. It doesn't penetrate, but the crew is blind. The tank commander shouts over the radio, but his words are lost as a concealed 75mm anti-tank gun, hidden deep inside a demolished cafe, fires. The shell hits the tank's turret ring. A flash of white-hot light, a gout of black smoke, and the escape hatch flies open. A crewman, his uniform ablaze, tumbles out and is immediately cut down by the machine guns. Move! Move! Get off the street! Sergeant Bill Taggart roars, firing his Sten gun from the hip. But where to? The Germans have been methodical. They use demolitions to create tactical funnels. The houses on either side of the street have been leveled, creating a massive pile of rubble that forces the Canadians down the main road, directly into the guns. The buildings left standing are fortresses. Their doors are wired. Their windows are sandbagged. Their cellars are connected by tunnels. A mortar round, an 80mm granite werfer, lands with a sickening crump in the middle of the street. Lonsdale sees 3 men from his platoon simply disappear, replaced by a red mist and scattered equipment. The Seaforth Highlanders of Canada attempt to flank, to push up a narrow alleyway parallel to the Corso. They are met by a different kind of horror, a bouncing Betty, The German S-mine is tripped. A click, a whoomp, and the mine springs waist-high before detonating, sending a spray of ball bearings through the tight confines of the alley. The screams are harrowing. The advance is not just stalled, it is being annihilated. The street, soon to be nicknamed the Red Boulevard, is littered with the dead and dying. Medics, braving the fire, are shot dead with white armbands on. The Fallschirmjäger give no quarter. By 17 hours, as the cold December light fails, the forward companies of the Loyal Eddies and the Seaforths have been shattered. They have gained less than 3 blocks, at a cost of over 60 men killed or wounded. They are pinned down, trapped in the very first buildings they managed to seize. The tanks are pulling back, their armor no match for hidden anti-tank guns at point-blank range. The commanders at Division HQ are stunned. The frontal assault is suicide. Flanking is impossible. The Germans have turned every street into a trap. Major General Chris Vokes, commander of the 1st Canadian Division, faces a terrible reality. His men are stuck, bleeding to death at the gates of a medieval fortress defended by the most elite troops in the Wehrmacht. That night, in a freezing, candle-lit command post just behind the line, the maps are spread. The mood is grim. They cannot go around. They cannot go through the streets. The call goes out to the reserve battalion. The Royal 22e Regiment, the Vendus. They are Canada's proud French-speaking regiment. And in their ranks is a man who has already stared down the Fallschirmjäger and survived. A man whose company was just decimated taking a single farmhouse, Casa Berardi, in the gully. He is tired. He is grieving his lost men, but he is a fighter, and he sees the problem not as an infantryman, but as an engineer of aggression. If the street is the killing floor, they will simply refuse to walk on it. Captain Paul Triquet is brought forward. So 3 December, Ortona, 1943. A shell-damaged cellar, 2 streets back from the Corso Vittorio Emanuele. The air is frigid and smells of sour wine from a shattered cask. A single hurricane lamp throws huge, restless shadows on the damp stone walls. Captain Paul Triquet, CO of C Company, Royal 22nd Regiment, leans over a map. His face is a grey mask of exhaustion, eyes burning holes in the candlelight. Around him are his Vendu officers and a few exhausted, grim-faced NCOs from the Loyal Edmonton and Seaforth Highlander regiments. These are the survivors of yesterday. The men who watched their friends evaporate on the Red Boulevard. Regardez, Triquet says, his voice a low rasp. He taps the neat parallel lines of the Corso. They are begging us to come this way. They want us on the street. It is a grinder. C'est de la folie. It is madness. A silence, thick with smoke and the rumble of distant artillery, hangs in the cellar. So, Triquet continues, looking up from the map. We will not use the streets. A haggard Seaforth sergeant, his face black with cordite, looks up. Meaning what, sir? We sprout wings. The flanks are sealed. Triquet turns from the map and places his hand flat against the cellar wall. The ancient, thick stone wall that connects this house to the next. No, Sergeant, we will not go around. We will go through. He explains the concept. It is not complex, but it is unorthodox. It is brutal. The Fallschirmjäger have turned the streets into killing zones. They have fortified the ground floor doors and windows. They expect the Canadians to attack the strong points. They wait for us at the front door. Triquet says, his voice hardening. So we will come through the bedroom wall. They wait for us in the cellar, so we will come through the attic. He sketches the idea. The houses in Ortona are built in long, contiguous blocks, sharing party walls. They are medieval, built of stone and plaster, but they are not bunkers. They are shells. "We will breach this wall," he says, slapping the stone. "We fight room by room, floor by floor. We clear this house, and then we breach the next wall, and the next. We will advance inside the buildings, not outside." He calls it mouse-holing. The men in the cellar exchange glances. They are trading one hell for another. Instead of a 100-yard dash through machine gun fire, they are volunteering for a new kind of claustrophobic, intimate warfare, hand-to-hand combat in the dark, in narrow hallways and smoke-filled kitchens, against the best paratroopers in the German army. "Engineers," Tricase snaps, looking at a young lieutenant. "Explosives? Sir, we have beehive charges, 6-pounders, and ample 808 plastic explosive." The beehive is a conical charge designed to focus its blast. "Bien, this is the plan. One platoon starts on the top floor. They cross the roofs from the buildings we already hold. They blast their way into the attics of the next house. They fight down." He points to another officer. "Your platoon starts on the ground floor. You blast through the side wall, you fight up. We trap them between two fires, in their own fortress." The audacity of it is chilling. It is a vertical pincer attack, fought inside a single block of houses. 5:30 hours. The eastern edge of the Corso. Private Jean-Guy Robichaud of the Van Douce is terrified. He's part of the ground floor assault team. His job is to carry the beehive. He and his section are crammed into the ground floor salotto, the living room of a house the Eddies captured yesterday. The bodies of the previous owners are still huddled in the kitchen. Sergeant Marcel Le Corbeau Gagnon, a grim-faced veteran, checks the primer cord. "Robichaud, you place the charge, center of the wall. When the fuse is lit, you have 30 seconds. Do not be a hero. Get behind the chimney stack." Robichaud nods, his mouth dry. Through the sandbagged window, he can see the first weak grey light of dawn. Across the street, an MG-42 fires a short, probing burst. Rip. "Do it," Gagnon orders. Robichaud scrambles forward, pressing the 6-pound cone against the plaster. His hands are shaking so badly he can barely fix the adhesive. He sets the detonator, pulls the friction igniter. A sharp hiss. The green fuse spits sparks. "Fuse lit! Fuse lit!" He dives back, scrambling over furniture, pressing his small frame behind a thick stone chimney. The rest of the section crams into the hallway. Men open their mouths, plug their ears. The 30 seconds stretch into an eternity. The detonation is not a sound. It is a physical blow. The entire building lurches. A wave of immense pressure sucks the air from Robichaud's lungs and slams him against the wall. Plaster, brick dust, and pulverized wallpaper explode outward, filling the room with a choking, impenetrable cloud of white powder. "Allez, allez, go, go!" Before the debris has even started to fall, Sergeant Gagnon is charging into the fog, his Sten gun leveled. "Grenade!" he roars, pulling the pin on a Mills bomb and lobbing it through the jagged, man-sized hole. Crump! A muffled scream from the other side. "Robichaud, avec moi!" Robichaud racks the bolt on his Lee Enfield and plunges through the breach. The air is unbreathable, thick with cordite and dust. The room on the other side is a shambles. The blast has killed one German in his chair. Another is staggering, his face a mask of blood. Raising his MP-40. Gagnon's Sten burps 3 times. Bup, bup, bup. The German is thrown backward. "Stairs! Clear the stairs!" This is the new reality. A savage, room-to-room battle. The Canadians burst into the hallway. A potato masher grenade, a steel hand granite, is thrown down from the second floor. It clatters on the tiles. Back! The explosion is sharp, sending shrapnel whistling down the hall. The Fallschirmjäger have reacted instantly. They are not surprised. They are professionals. "Upstairs! Top floor team! Where are you?" Gagnon shouts, knowing his voice won't carry simultaneously. 2 stories above them, a second Van Du section is enacting part 2 of Triquet's plan. They have climbed to the roof of the captured house, shimmied across the frozen tiles, and reached the attic window of the German-held building. They don't bother with the lock. A corporal smashes the glass with his rifle butt, another tosses in a grenade. After the blast, they pour in, landing on trunks and old furniture. They are met by 2 paratroopers. The fight is immediate and primeval. A Canadian swings his rifle like a club. A German fires his pistol, the flash illuminating the attic like a strobe light. A paratrooper is bayoneted. "Clear! Move down!" the corporal yells. The Germans are now trapped. Gagnon's team is fighting its way up the stairs, using fire and movement in a space no wider than a closet. The attic team is fighting its way down. They meet on the second-floor landing in a hail of friendly fire before the frantic shouts of, "Van Du! Van Du! Stop the shooting!" The house is a wreck. The stairwell is slick with blood. 4 Germans are dead. 1 Canadian is dead. 3 wounded. It has taken them 40 minutes. They have advanced exactly 50 feet. Gagnon leans against a wall, coughing plaster dust. "Engineers, get the beehive. Next wall." The battle for Ortona has changed. The street is silent, but inside the stone buildings, a new, brutal war is just beginning. 1 wall at a time, the mouse-holing has begun. And as the day wears on, the Germans, masters of improvisation, begin to adapt. They realize the threat isn't from the street. It's from the wall right next to them. 11:45 hours, December 20th, 1943. The interior of the second captured house. The air is a grey fog of pulverized plaster. It coats the tongue, clogs the nostrils, and stings the eyes. Private Jean-Guy Robichaud is pressed against a wall, his shoulders touching Sergeant Gagnon's. They are in what was once a child's bedroom. A small, wrought-iron bed frame is overturned in the corner. They are listening. On the other side of this flowered wallpaper wall is the next house. And in that house, there is silence. It is a loud, terrifying silence. "They know we are here," Gagnon whispers, his voice barely audible. "They can smell us." "L'ingénieur," Robichaud murmurs, nodding to the engineer corporal who is gently tamping a beehive charge against the stone. Every scrape of his trowel on the plaster sounds like a gunshot. They have learned the first breach was thunder. The second must be a whisper until the moment of the blast. The corporal finishes. He unspools the det cord, backing away into the hallway. "Prêt, mon sergent." Gagnon nods. He looks at his section, their faces pale and ghostly in the dust-filtered light from the blown-out window. "Grenades first, then the Stens. Robichaud, you and Pelletier, watch the stairs. They will try to come from above or below." They tense, plugging their ears. Gagnon gives the signal. The corporal pulls the igniter. The hiss of the fuse. But it is drowned out by a sound from the other side of the wall. A frantic scraping, a muffled shout in German. "Merde!" Gagnon screams. "Back, get back. They have a charge, Gegenladung. It is a countercharge." The Fallschirmjäger were listening to the corporal placing his explosive. They have placed their own, larger charge against the same wall. The Canadians have no time to run. They dive, scrambling over each other, trying to get into the hallway. The wall doesn't just breach, it vaporizes. A blinding, yellow-white flash. An unholy shockwave that is pure, kinetic force. The floor heaves. The ceiling cracks open. Robichaud is lifted from his feet and slammed into the opposite wall. His helmet is torn from his head, his rifle ripped from his hands. The air pressure pops his ears, leaving him in a muffled, ringing void. The blast is catastrophic. The entire party wall is gone, replaced by a smoking, jagged maw 3 times the size of their own intended mouse hole. The engineer who laid the charge is gone. 2 other men are buried under a pile of smoking masonry, and through the smoke, before the ringing in Robichaud's ears has even faded, they come. They are not men. They are devils. They wear gas masks with round, goggling eyes, making them look like insects. They are grey-green spectres charging through the dust. The Van Doos are disoriented, blinded, and choking. The Fallschirmjäger are prepared. Bup, bup, bup. An MP-40 opens up. Sergeant Gagnon, already on one knee, fires his Sten gun from the hip. A wild, unaimed burst that cuts the first paratrooper in half. "To me, aux armes!" Gagnon roars, his voice hoarse. A second paratrooper appears, and he is not carrying a rifle. He carries a Flammenwerfer 41, a long metal tube. He pulls the trigger. A torrent of liquid fire, a sticky, burning jelly, erupts from the nozzle. It splashes across the ceiling and runs down the walls. A Van Doo caught in the spray shrieks, a high, piercing sound that is barely human, as his battle dress melts to his skin. The room is instantly illuminated by a horrific, dancing orange light. The heat is unbearable, searing the lungs. This is the German counterpunch. They have turned Triquet's tactic against him. The mouse hole is now a 2-way street, and the Germans are charging into the Canadian-held territory. Robichaud, his vision swimming, finds his rifle. He sees a grey-green uniform through the flames. He doesn't aim. He points and pulls the trigger. The .303 round hits the German, who stumbles but keeps coming. Robichaud fires again, and again, working the bolt in a sheer panic. The German finally drops. "Grenade!" Gagnon yells, pulling the pin on a Mills bomb and rolling it through the breach like a bowling ball. "Cover!" The explosion is followed by German screams. The attack is stalled. "Pelletier, the fire! Put out the fire!" Gagnon orders, yanking the burning man to the ground and trying to smother the flames with his own body. The fight descends into a medieval brawl. For 10 minutes, the 2 elite units battle back and forth through the wall, in a space no larger than a living room, choked with smoke, fire, and the screams of the wounded. They fight with bayonets, with trench knives, with shovels. Finally, the Canadians, fueled by a desperate fury, push the Germans back. Gagnon himself stands in the breach, his Sten empty, screaming in French for them to come on. The remaining paratroopers retreat to the back of their own house. A ceasefire, unspoken, settles. Both sides are exhausted, terrified, and shocked. Robichaud leans against a charred wall, vomiting from the smoke and the smell of burning flesh. Gagnon slumps beside him, reloading a new magazine into his Sten with shaking hands. "They learn," Gagnon breathes, coughing. My God, they learn fast. The battle has changed again. Now, every breach is a potential trap. The Germans are no longer just defending. They are counterattacking through the walls. And they are booby-trapping everything. As C Company, bloodied but unbowed, finally clears the rest of the second house. They find the traps. A wire attached to a closet door, linked to a grenade. A bouncing Betty S mine hidden under the floorboards of the main landing, but the most terrifying innovation is what they find in the next house. As they prepare for another breach, a corporal in the attic team signals for silence. Scrape, scrape, thud, a sound from the floor, of the room below them. They're tunneling up, the corporal whispers, his eyes wide with disbelief. The Germans are not just mouse-holing horizontally, they are now breaching vertically. They are cutting holes in the floors and ceilings, creating kill zones from above and below. Captain Triquet arrives at the smoldering breach. He sees the scorched walls, the bodies. He sees the new reality. His tactic worked, but the Germans have matched it. "Alors?" Trique says, his voice grim. If they wish to fight in 3 dimensions, so will we. He gives a new order. No room is to be entered. Period. Every wall, every floor, and every ceiling is now an enemy. The new tactic is even more brutal. They blow the mouse hole. They do not go through. Instead, they blow a second hole in the floor above. They drop grenades and phosphorus. They blow a third hole in the ceiling of the room below them, firing their Bren guns upward. They saturate the target house with explosives and lead before a single man sets foot inside. It is no longer a battle. It is an industrial, room-by-room demolition. The town of Ortona is being systematically pulverized. Its houses turned into concrete dust from the inside out. The Fallschirmjäger are forced to give ground, not to infantry, but to sheer, overwhelming, point-blank explosive power. The advance is measured in feet per hour. The cost in ammunition is staggering. The cost in human nerves is incalculable. December 22nd, 1943. 09:15 hours. A captured kitchen. 3 houses west of the Piazza Municipale. The Van Doos have been fighting for 30 hours straight. The men are automatons, their faces caked in a grey-white paste of sweat and plaster dust. Their uniforms are scorched. Their eyes are bloodshot. The process has become a grim assembly line ritual. Step 1, the engineers place the beehive. Step 2, everyone takes cover. Step 3, the blast, which now feels like a dull, familiar punch. Step 4, the saturation. A corporal leans over the breech and empties a full 30-round magazine from his Sten gun. A Bren gunner does the same. 2 grenades are thrown in. Step 5, the entry. Sergeant Gagnon's section is next. They are stacked up in a narrow hallway, ready to breach the wall of a building that opens onto the main town square. This is the linchpin. The Germans know they're coming. Charges set, the engineer whispers. Backing away, Gagnon nods. He looks at Private Robichaud. Jean-Guy, you and Pelletier. First in, clear left. Robichaud just nods, his mind numb. He checks the bolt on his Lee Enfield. Firing the hole. The hiss of the fuse. The men brace. The explosion. The cloud of dust. The immediate, deafening rattle of the Bren gun firing into the void. Grenades. 2 Mills bombs. 2 crumps. Allez! Gagnon shoves Robichaud's back. Go! Robichaud scrambles over the rubble, his bayonet fixed, and plunges through the smoking hole. The room is empty. It's a large salumeria, a butcher shop. Slabs of marble are overturned. The air smells of dust and long-spoiled meat. Pelletier, left! Robichaud yells. Moving right. The room is dark. The front windows completely sandbagged. It's clear. Sergeant, Pelletier calls out from the far corner. Looks like they've pulled back. Gagnon and the rest of the section pile in, fanning out. Check the back. Check the stairs. Be careful of... He stops. His blood runs cold. He doesn't hear a sound. He feels it. A low, deep groan. Not from a man, but from the building itself. The stones are shifting. Jean-Guy, Gagnon whispers, his eyes darting to the ceiling. Do you hear that? From the cellar beneath their feet comes a new sound. A faint, muffled hiss. The unmistakable sound of a long-delay chemical fuse. The Fallschirmjäger had not retreated. They had lured them in. They had sacrificed this entire building. Trap! Gagnon screams, his voice cracking. It's a trap! Get out! Dehors! Tous le monde! Dehors! Robichaud doesn't hesitate. He turns and dives, head first, back toward the mouse hole he just entered. He hears Pelletier cry out in confusion. He feels Gagnon's hand grab the back of his webbing and pull him. He is halfway through the hole when the world ends. The Germans had packed the cellar with hundreds of pounds of high explosives. It is not an explosion. It is an eruption. The entire 4-story building lifts off its foundations. The marble floor heaves, throwing Pelletier and 3 other men against the ceiling. Then, with a sound like a mountain falling, the entire structure disintegrates. The roof, the floors, the massive stone walls, all pancake inward, one on top of the other, collapsing into the cellar. The blast wave propels Robichaud and Gagnon through the mouse hole, throwing them like dolls back into the house they just left. The mouse hole, their only escape, is instantly sealed by 1,000,000 tons of falling masonry. A colossal cloud of black and grey dust blots out the sun. Where a 4-story building stood, there is now a new 10-meter-high mountain of smoking rubble. Pelletier is gone. The rest of the entry team, gone. Buried alive. Robichaud lies on the floor, deaf, blinded and choking. His lungs are on fire. He can taste stone. Gagnon is beside him, his face a mask of blood from a dozen shrapnel cuts, screaming a name that makes no sound. The Fallschirmjäger have adapted again. They have turned the entire town into a booby trap. They are willing to destroy Ortona, one building at a time. Taking 10 Canadians with everyone, Captain Paul Triquet arrives, his face black. He sees the new mountain of rubble. He sees Gagnon, a man he has known for years, sitting on the floor, weeping with rage and grief. They buried them. Gagnon chokes out, "Sir, they just buried them." The mouse hole tactic has hit a wall, a literal wall of its own making. The men are at their breaking point. They cannot go into the streets. And now, they cannot go through the buildings. They are trapped. Triquet stares at the wall of rubble, the dust still settling. His mind is working. The Germans are methodical. They are engineers of death, but they are predictable. They expect the Canadians to breach, enter, and die. "Get me the 3 rivers," Triquet says, his voice dangerously quiet. A runner looks at him, confused. "Sir, the tanks, they can't. The streets, get me a tank," Triquet commands. Now, 20 minutes later, a Sherman tank. Its engine a throaty rumble, clatters up the narrow back alley. Its 75-meter gun leveled. Its commander, a young lieutenant, leans down from the turret. "Captain, you wanted to see me. We're drawing sniper fire just sitting here." "Lieutenant," Triquet says, pointing not at a German position, but at the wall of the next house, the one adjacent to the collapsed building. "I want you to drive through that wall." The tanker blinks. "Sir, you want me to drive through it?" "That is my order. Put your 75mm gun right through his living room. Create a new door." The tanker grins. "This is new." "Yes, sir." The Sherman roars. It reverses 10 yards, pivots, and then lunges forward. "Gunner, traverse right. Coax, fire. Keep their heads down." The tank's machine gun opens up, spraying the windows of the houses across the square. The Sherman does not slow. It hits the 14th century stone wall at 15 miles per hour. There is a sound of screeching metal and shattering history. The wall explodes inward. Stone, plaster, and furniture are thrown across the room. The tank lurches, its tracks biting, and pushes inside the ground floor of the house, its cannon now aimed at the interior staircase. The German paratroopers, waiting on the second floor with their machine guns aimed at the side wall, expecting another mouse hole, are stunned. They look down their own stairwell to see the coaxial machine gun of a 30-ton tank staring back at them. It opens fire. "Van Doos, go, go, go!" Triquet roars. The Van Doos, their morale instantly electrified, pour in around the tank, using it as a moving shield inside the house. They charge up the stairs, throwing grenades, their stens blazing. The fight is over in 90 seconds. Triquet's tactic has evolved. It is no longer mouse-holing. It is a brutal, combined arms, indoor-outdoor war. The Canadians have breached the piazza. The Germans, for the first time, are in disarray. They have no answer for a Sherman tank driving through a kitchen. The battle for Ortona is not over, but Paul Triquet has just broken the stalemate, and the Green Devils are finally, irrevocably, on the defensive. December 23rd, 1943, 10 buzz hours. The edge of the Piazza Municipale. The sound is impossible. It is a 75mm main battle cannon, firing inside a 19th century dining room. The concussion is a physical blow, a solid wall of pressure that shatters every remaining pane of glass for a block. Plaster dust rains down from the ceiling. Sergeant Gagnon, his ears ringing, feels the pressure wave hit his chest like a mule kick, even from the relative safety of the breach. Inside the building, the Sherman tank. Bonaventure lurches back on its suspension from the recoil. The high-explosive shell travels exactly 40 feet, crosses a hallway, and detonates against the interior stairwell. The entire staircase, stone, wood, and the MG-42 nest the Fallschirmjäger had built into its landing, ceases to exist. It becomes a cloud of splinters and vaporized concrete. "Go, go, go! Up the stairs!" Gagnon roars, his voice already hoarse. This is the new drill. The Triquet tactic evolved. Private Robichaud charges in, not through a small, man-sized mouse hole, but through a gaping, tank-sized cavity. He and his section stay low, using the tank's armored hull as a moving shield. The air is so thick with cordite and pulverized brick he can't see the opposite wall. The tank's coaxial machine gun opens up, a long, deafening burst that chews the walls of the second-floor landing. "Stairs!" Robichaud scrambles up the smoking rubble that was once the staircase. He reaches the landing, a wounded paratrooper, his face a mask of blood, raises his MP-40. Robichaud fires from the hip. The click of the empty bolt is simultaneous with the German pulling his trigger. Both men are out of ammunition. They stare at each other for a single, frozen second of mutual, primal terror. The German lunges, swinging his submachine gun like a club. Robichaud parries with his rifle and drives his bayonet forward. The fight is over. He doesn't have time to breathe. "Pelletier, room left." This is the hammer and the anvil. The tank is the hammer, smashing the German strong points. The infantry is the anvil, sealing the breach and catching the survivors. The Fallschirmjäger are trapped. Their tactic of turning every house into an interlocking fortress has been defeated, because the Canadians are now bringing their own fortress with them, house by house. The Van Duze and the Three Rivers Regiment advance. The process is one of industrial-scale demolition. The tank commander identifies the next house, reverses, gains speed, smashes through the wall, fires the 75mm at the main stairwell, fires the coax at the upper floors. The infantry pours in. The battle for the piazza, which the Germans had intended to be a week-long bloodbath, is over in 3 hours. The Green Devils are finally, truly, in retreat. But they are not broken. They are the most resourceful soldiers in the world, and as they are forced back into the northern, even more ancient quarter of the town, they adapt again. If they cannot win above ground, they will fight from below. 18 hours. A cleared cellar, 3 blocks north of the piazza. Gagnon's section is on rest. This is a cruel joke. Rest means they have 30 minutes in a secure cellar to drink lukewarm, chlorine-tasting water and try to keep a single cigarette lit in the damp. Frigid air. The men are slumped against barrels. Their hands tremble. This is the 4th day of continuous room-to-room combat. They are not men anymore. They are ghosts, haunted by the noise, the dust, and the smell of death. Robichaud is cleaning the bolt of his Lee Enfield for the 10th time. It's the only thing that keeps his mind focused. Quiet. Gagnon hisses. The cellar is silent. No, not silent. Beneath their feet, from the ancient stone floor, tap, scrape, tap. The men freeze. They look at each other, their eyes wide and white in the lantern light. They're under us. A corporal whispers, his voice trembling. Ortona is built on a network of medieval drains, sewers, and forgotten cisterns. The Fallschirmjäger, masters of the terrain, have found them. Scrape, thud, thud. Get to the corners, Gagnon yells, kicking over a barrel. Get ready. He aims his Sten gun at the center of the floor. The tapping stops. A muffled whoomp, a small breaching charge. The stone floor in the center of the room bulges upward. A crack appears. A gray-gloved hand, holding a potato masher grenade, shoves through the gap and drops it. Grenade! Robichaud dives behind a pillar as the steel hand granite detonates. The blast is deafening in the confined space. Shrapnel screams off the stone. Before the smoke clears, the hole is kicked open from below. A Fallschirmjäger, his face blackened with cork, leaps up from the floor like a demon from a trap door. He fires his MP-40, a wild burst that stitches the ceiling. Another follows him. Gagnon opens fire. The Sten's bup, bup, bup is answered by the German brat, brat, brat. 2 Van Doos are hit, slumping to the ground, but the Canadians were ready. From 3 corners, the Lee infields and a Bren gun open up, pouring a cone of concentrated fire into the hole. The 2 Germans are shredded. A 3rd paratrooper tries to climb out, is shot, and falls back into the tunnel. A scream of Hans echoes from below. Grenades, down the hole, Gagnon roars. Robichaud pulls the pin on 2 Mills bombs and rolls them into the darkness. The double crump is muffled, followed by a sickening, wet sound. The attack is over. Gagnon leans against the wall, breathing heavily. His hand is bleeding. Medic. They are not safe. Nowhere is safe. The battlefield is no longer horizontal. It is not even vertical. It is total. Every wall, every floor, every ceiling, and now the very ground beneath their feet is hostile territory. The tactic must evolve again. From this moment on, before entering any building, a Van Doos section drops grenades down every sewer grate. They clear the cellars by rolling explosives under the doors before opening them. The war has become a subterranean nightmare. December 24th, 1943, 3:45 hours. The ruins of the Cattedrale di San Tommaso. The battle has raged for 5 days. The town is unrecognizable. It is a moonscape. The streets are gone, filled with 30 feet of rubble. The Canadians are not advancing down roads. They are climbing over mountains of their own making. Captain Paul Triquet's C Company has been in the spearhead for the entire fight. They are finished. They are holding a line in the ruins of the town's main cathedral. They have lost 14 men killed and 30 wounded in the last 48 hours. The company is at less than half strength. It is Christmas Eve. A freezing rain begins to fall, hissing on the hot rubble. Robichaud is crouched behind a shattered marble altar, trying to see into the darkness. The Germans hold a block of apartments just 50 yards away. They have been fighting for this single intersection for 8 hours. Then, from the darkness, a sound. It's not gunfire. It's a voice. A single, clear German tenor. Stille Nacht. Heilige Nacht. A German soldier is singing Silent Night. The Van Doos look at each other. They lower their rifles. The German's voice is joined by others. A small, ragged choir of paratroopers. Alice Schlaft, Einsamwacht, Sergeant Gagnon, a devout Catholic from Rimouski, slowly stands up. He is silhouetted against a burning building. "Don't shoot," he murmurs. He clears his throat. His own voice is rough, cracked with exhaustion and smoke. "Sainte Nuit, douce nuit, One by one, the French Canadians join him. Tout est calme, tout est lui, for 5 minutes, on a battlefield of unbelievable savagery. The two most elite units in the world serenade each other across a 50-yard stretch of rubble. The music floats over the dead, a surreal, heartbreaking truce. When the song ends, there is only silence and the hiss of the rain. Merry Christmas. Les Boches, Gagnon whispers. He crouches back behind the altar. Reload. They will attack at dawn. He is right. At 05:30 on Christmas Day, the Germans launch a vicious, desperate counterattack with flamethrowers. The battle for the cathedral is a new and personal kind of hell. But the Van Doos hold. By the evening of December 26th, the Germans are spent. Their commander, General Heydrich, knows his position is lost. His elite 1st Fallschirmjäger division has been mauled, broken by the relentless, brutal ingenuity of the Canadians and their captain. The order is given to conduct a fighting withdrawal. On the morning of December 27th, the patrols from the loyal Edmonton Regiment, the same men who began the assault, move forward. They mouse-hole their way into the final blocks. They are met with only silence and traps. The Germans are gone. They have slipped away in the night. Captain Paul Triquet's company is pulled from the line. They are not victorious. They are survivors. They are ghosts who walk out of the smoking ruin of a town they have just systematically and heroically destroyed. December 28th, 1943. 11 hours. The Corso Vittorio Emanuele. It is over. Major General Chris Vokes walks down the main street, the red boulevard. He is not walking on pavement. He is walking on a street elevated by 10 feet of debris, rubble, and the unrecovered dead. The buildings on either side are no longer buildings. They are hollowed out, skeletal husks, their facades ripped away, revealing the intimate, pulverized cross-sections of family homes. A bed dangles precariously from a third-floor remnant. A child's tricycle is twisted in a mass of rebar. The air smells of death, of damp plaster, and of lime, which medical teams are now spreading. Ortona has been called Little Stalingrad. It is a fitting name. In the 8-day battle for this single, small Adriatic town, the 1st Canadian Infantry Division has suffered 475 casualties, a quarter of all Canadian losses in the entire 3-month Italian campaign. The loyal Edmonton Regiment and the Seaforth Highlanders of Canada, who began the assault, have been effectively wiped out as fighting units. The Van Doos are shattered. The elite 1st Fallschirmjäger Division has also paid a terrible price. They, too, are broken, having held to their Führer's order until the very last. The street fight they so expertly engineered became their own tomb. But something else has happened here. A new form of warfare has been born from the rubble. Captain Paul Triquet, his face still caked with dust, his eyes vacant with an exhaustion that will never fully leave him, is informed by his battalion commander. For his conspicuous bravery and outstanding leadership, not just for the mouse-holing in Ortona, but for the impossible stand his C Company made days earlier at Casa Berardi, where he held a farmhouse with a handful of men and a single tank against waves of German infantry and armor. He will be awarded the Victoria Cross. He is the first Canadian to earn the British Empire's highest award for valor in the Italian campaign. He does not celebrate. He thinks of the men who are not there to share it. He thinks of Sergeant Gagnon. He thinks of Private Robichaud. He thinks of Pelletier, buried under tons of stone. His tactic, born of desperation and a refusal to accept the Germans' rules of engagement, is studied. It is photographed. It is written into field manuals. The mouse-holing of Ortona, the brutal, wall-by-wall, room-by-room demolition, the use of tanks as internal battering rams, This becomes the new Allied doctrine for urban warfare. The lessons paid for in Canadian blood in this small Italian town will be used again, in the streets of Cologne, in the fight for Aachen, and in the final, apocalyptic battle for Berlin. The battle for Ortona was a victory. But it was not a glorious one. It was a 20th century siege fought with 20th century tools in a 14th century town. It was a grinding, claustrophobic, and utterly savage affair, where the only way to win was to destroy everything. The men who fought here were not supermen. They were civilians in uniform who were asked to do the impossible, and, led by a captain who refused to let them die on a street, they did it. They went through the stone. They fought in the attics and the cellars. They fought the living and the dead, and they left behind a city of rubble and a legend forged in plaster, cordite, and fire.